Welcome back to Old School Sports and our franchise hockey manager 8 playthrough of the New York Islanders. We are at the start of the 2025 to 2026 season. Big news in the offseason for the Islanders is that this is the beginning of our fifth season as general manager, and we will be having a new coach, our third coach in those 5 seasons, with Kevin Dineen, who has joined us behind the bench. Dineen replaces Alain Vigneault, who was our coach for 2 seasons and went out last year as a Stanley Cup champion. The Islanders are defending the Stanley Cup championship this season. We will be raising a banner at the UBS Arena. A banner raised for the Islanders for the first time in 42 years tomorrow in our home opener against Nashville. Was a bit of a quieter off season, obviously coming off of a Stanley Cup championship year. Probably don't need to change the roster too much. Last season we finally got rid of a lot of the older players and more difficult contracts that we had. So that obviously worked out as well as it could with us winning it all, but also leaves us a roster that's younger than what we've had in recent years, and is a roster that we like a lot. The two big changes, bringing up Lucas Parrik at goal. We traded away Sorokin, so a bit of a youth movement with Parrik and Ottinger in front of the net. And then the huge trade for Panarin from the Rangers gives us an incredibly talented offensive player to kind of pair on the first line with Matthew Barzal. Hopefully the two of them working together generates a ton of offense for us. Last year, Panarin's contract, 33 years old, certainly unsure of whether we would sign him to an extension or not. But hopefully adding a player like him increases the chances that we can successfully defend the Stanley Cup this year. Just 2 minor injuries as we head into the season. Well, one minor, one a little less than minor. Parrik is on the IL with a bruised collarbone. He will be back very shortly. And then Beauvillier is still out for a month or two. Hopefully we'll have him back by mid to late November. Certainly feel pretty comfortable that we can kind of piece together the front line without him for a month or two, but will obviously be nice when we have him back. As you know, if you've been watching closely, we've traded away a lot of our top young prospects over the past couple of years to kind of improve our roster with younger players, and also get teams to take on some of our more difficult contracts in cases. So we've traded away a lot of our youth and prospects and future draft choices. Looking at potential, the big players that we have in the minors are goalies Tristan Lennox, Brett Brochu, and Sergei Ivanov, who all were in Bridgeport last year. Quite honestly, probably need to send one of them down to Worcester this season just to ensure that they get a little more playing time. We'll do that with Ivanov right now, so we don't forget. And then other than that, Mateo Rotundi, the 20-year-old left defenseman, is probably the top prospect that we have. You can see he's 2 stars today, has potential to get up to 4 stars. Was in the Quebec Juniors last year, but we have signed him, so he is going to be starting out in Worcester this year. Probably will only play there for a month or so, and then we'll move him up to Bridgeport if he progresses as we expect he will. Looking at the rest of the kind of 3.5-star players who could become something more significant: Marcus Almquist, Jeremy Leroux, and then last but not least, Xavier Bourgault, who spent a little time with the Islanders last season, and then Kai Uchaz, who was in Worcester last year. Probably, going to start in Worcester this year, I guess, simply because he's still only a 1-star player, but we're going to probably move him up to Bridgeport relatively quickly to challenge him a bit more. He's 22 years old. We've got to figure out what, if anything, we have with him. And then looking at the protected list, actually we'll look at it a different way. Let's pull up the unsigned. That'll be an easier way to kind of look at our top prospects there. A few other people in the system. Tobias Omen, young forward from Sweden. He was our third-round draft pick about a year and a half ago. Certainly has high potential, but you see 19 years old, only 1.5 stars today. Stenberg, another Swedish forward, has theoretically 4-star potential. Daniil Butt, who's over in Russia right now. And then Evan Malay, who we signed. I believe he was a first-round pick for us. He was a first-round pick for us, I think, the year that we had actually bolstered ourselves and had 2 first-round picks. So he's still a goalie with some potential, but we have kind of cleared out a lot of our top prospects over the last couple of years, unfortunately. Certainly has paid off with a Stanley Cup winning team, but does kind of limit our flexibility a bit going forward. Well, we're 2-2 in the early stages of the season as we begin our defense of the Stanley Cup. But a big game for one of our new additions, Panarin, earlier this week. 2 goals and 2 assists. One of the goals was the 300th of his career and an 8-4 win over Tampa Bay. So, as I mentioned, at his age and with the fact he's probably still looking for 8, 9, 10 million plus in terms of an annual contract, probably not going to be back with us next year. But we are going to do our absolute best to try to ensure we get the most possible out of him this season. Just got some bad news here in the early stages of the season. Our star defenseman, Adam Fox, fractured shoulder blade, so he's going to be out for 1 to 2 months. So obviously not optimal. We just got Parrik back a little while ago, but now we're going to put another one of our big defensemen onto the injured list. The only positive thing is that we do feel like we really have 8 pretty good defensemen right now, so that will enable us to bring up the young defenseman, not Johansson. We're going to go with our 21-year-old David Jaracek, who you can see has been -4 in 4 games at Bridgeport, but did a great job up late with the big team last season. And this will hopefully allow him to get some good playing time up with the big club over the next month and a half while Fox is out. So not optimal to have an injury, but we feel that our roster is pretty strong at both the NHL and the AHL level, so not too concerned about it. Matthew Savoy, prospect from a couple years ago, number 2 pick in the entire draft. You can see he's a 3.5-star player now with 4.5-star potential. 4 assists in his first 6 games of the season. Hopefully we can get a little more goal scoring from him going forward. But as he has kind of grown up with the team, you can see he's moved from about 9.5 minutes on the ice as a rookie to a little over 13 minutes on the ice last season, and now he's up to 14.5 minutes on the ice this year. So hopefully we can continue giving him more and more playing time because amazingly, he is now in the final year of his contract with us, so we're going to have a lot of decisions to make over the coming months on who to bring back next season. Certainly, I think his contract at this point is going to be reasonable. It's not until his subsequent contract that he could potentially get really expensive. So hard to imagine we won't be bringing Savoy back, but we'll be focusing on signing some of those deals in the coming weeks. Well, we made it into November, and the team is off to a great start. 11-3-1 record, which puts us tied for second in the NHL in points with Seattle, behind only Anaheim. You can see Panarin with 10 goals and 10 assists, 20 total points, is in the top 8 in the league in scoring in both goals and points. So has been a really nice addition to us. Looking at our monthly budget, finances have been a bit of a problem for us with the Islanders. You can see we don't have a ton of points available. Our owner typically takes out some pretty significant profits from the team every year, so we've been unable to build up a really big base of points, unfortunately. You can see we do have a disloyal fan base. Thought about raising ticket prices last off-season following the Stanley Cup championship, but thought it would be more important to try to get as many bodies in the seats as we can. But so far, hasn't been huge for us. We are at least trending positive for the next month, so we are going to pop up scouting to +2, keep team morale at +3, and then try to really push the attendance bonus to hopefully get some more people into the seats and hopefully generate even more money going forward. But speaking of scouting, you can see that we're only +2 here, so we are not fully maxed out, unfortunately. We just can't afford to do it. We'd be running a deficit. But we do have a very large scouting team. You can see that we're fully capable in every one of the geographies on the planet that we try to scout. If we had the money, we could bump all these up to a 20 out of 20 from a 17 out of 20 if we just felt we had the budget space for us. But we've added a ton of great scouts over the year. You can see the first page of our scouts in a bunch of different geographies are all excellent at scouting ability and excellent at scouting potential. So it is definitely an area that we try to invest a good amount of money into our staff on, even if we're not able to get up to 20 out of 20 with the budget. The hope is that having a ton of excellent scouts on the team allows us to hopefully be pretty accurate with our projections of youngsters and our expectations of potential veterans that we could be trading for. And I forgot to mention when I was talking about what a good start Panarin was on in his Islanders career that Lucas Parrik, our young goalie, who was the other key addition, we traded for Panarin. We brought up Parrik from the minor leagues, and he is tied for second in the league in wins at this point. Obviously, when the Islanders offense is in front of you, we're scoring a lot of points. But you can see he also has a .233 goals against average and a .931 save percentage. So he has been a fantastic addition to the team so far, and think that moving on with Sorokin and going with a bit of a youth movement between the pipes is going to be a move that works out well for us going forward. Well, the Islanders have dropped a couple games in a row. Our record stands at 11-5-2 right now. Still a very strong team, but the good news is that Beauvillier is back a little earlier than we had even hoped from his injury, so obviously going to move him right onto the active roster. That's going to necessitate sending somebody down, and we're going to make a decision that may come back to haunt us. We are going to send the young versatile forward Oscar Alausen down to Bridgeport. You can see he's only a 2-star player now. He's got 3-star potential. He's only 22 years old. There's a chance that we will lose him. I think it's certainly possible that someone else will pick him up. But if you look at the rest of our roster, generally all 3-star, 4-star, and a couple 5-star kind of players. Thought about sending down Connor Zary, but he's also, definitely someone who would get picked up, and he has been more productive than Alausen so far. So we're going to send him down, hope that he makes it through waivers, but if not, interesting decision by us. But I guess, when you're a team like us that has a lot of talent, those are the type of decisions you have to make from time to time. We'll see whether anyone picks him up. We'll see how this game goes against Montreal at home tonight. Hopefully we kind of end our brief losing streak, and we do with a 1-0 victory. So good to get a W. And after another day, we should have a good sense of whether Olausson made it through waivers. Doesn't look like anybody picked him up, so hopefully that means he's made it down to Bridgeport. Well, we're nearing the end of November, and some bad news for the Islanders. Right winger Oliver Wahlstrom going to be out for 5 months, so hopefully if we have a good run in the playoffs, we will have him back for that. You can see finally started to show some of his great potential this season with 13 goals in 27 games. So definitely gonna miss the offense that he can bring to us. But we have a pretty deep system, so we will hopefully be able to cope with losing him. I think we're going to make maybe a little bit of an interesting move. You remember that we did send down not that long ago Oscar Olausson, but we're not going to bring him back up. He made it through waivers, and he's at Bridgeport right now. He's also a little banged up. So we are going to bring up a different young right winger, Marcus Almquist. As you can see, 24 points in 32 games down in Bridgeport, getting used to life in North American hockey, and we are going to give him an opportunity to see what he can do at the NHL level. So that brings the roster back to 23. Both Adam Fox and John Marino have been out for the last month plus at this point. You can see Fox about a month and a half and a little over a month for Marino. They're both 1 to 2 weeks away from returning, which will certainly help our blue line when they get back. But we're going to be without Wahlstrom for a while, but going to do the best we can to continue to progress. We're leading the Metropolitan Division with 34 points, but that actually only puts us fourth in the Eastern Conference right now, a bit behind Detroit and Ottawa. And you can see that the Bruins, who are trying to rebuild, are having an incredible season at 19-3-4 right now. So a lot of good teams out there, but they're all chasing us until we lose in the playoffs. Well, the month of November wasn't quite as good as the fast start we got off to in October, but we're still 9-6-1 over the last month. You can see 29-2 overall with 42 points, so certainly still in a good position. 9 games ahead of the Devils in the Metropolitan Conference. So although we have played 3 more games than anyone else in the division except for Carolina, but the Bruins are, coming back to us a little bit with 46 points, but it's really just that we've won a couple games since we last checked in, and I don't think they've played too much. But a good season so far. You can see Panarin is fourth in the league in points, leading the league in goals now, and both Nechas and Panarin are in the top 8 in the league in assists. And Ottinger actually right now is fifth in goals against average. So with Ottinger and Parrik, we've got a great netminders. You can see Parrik has slowed down a bit over the last few weeks, but still an 11-7-1 record, 292 goals against and 912 saves percentage, while Ottinger 226 goals against, 925 save percentage, and a 9-2-1 record. So Ottinger has kind of moved to become the second goalie this year, with Sorokin gone and Parrik up with the big roster. But they are both definitely meeting and probably exceeding expectations for us in the early to mid stages of this 25-26 season. And as we're talking about our goaltenders, you can see that this offseason is going to be a little different for us. We have a lot of players right now on the final year of their contract. Obviously, we've talked mostly about it with Panarin, but both Parrik and Ottinger are in the final year of their contracts. On the defense side, Peak, Johansson, and Dobson. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the young center Savoy, another young center Campbell, another young center Atu Rati. So we've got a lot of decisions to make. We're going to try to get some of those players signed, and we'll come back and let you know how that goes. Hopefully, we're going to extend, probably 6 to 8 of these 10 or 12 players right now who are on the last year of their contracts, so we can get a little better sense of what our roster and salary cap position will be looking like next season, and also just see if anyone is looking for anything ridiculous as far as contracts. In the case of Parrik, yeah, $1.3 million for 2 years. Certainly happy to pay him that. We'll try to go for a little under, offer him $1.25 million, and see if he'll go for 3 years. He probably won't. No, he wants $1.29 million in 2 years. See if he'll go for 1.25 for 2 years. Ask for a response. Okay, we're not going to fool around anymore. We will meet your demand and submit the offer to him. So hopefully we'll certainly have Parrik signed for another couple seasons, and we'll let you know how we do with the rest of our negotiations. Well, we got the easy contract signed. Parrik, we just extended for $1.26 million for another 2 seasons, so good to know that we will have him in front of the net for us. Rati, got an extra year out of him. He was looking to only extend for 3 years, but we were able to get 4 years out of him at $2.4 million a year for the 23-year-old Finnish frontliner. So happy to have him on board. Matthew Savoy, a little bit more expensive. You can see we did get an extra year out of him too, though. He was only looking for 3 years, but we're able to convince him to re-up for 4 years at $2.9 million a year. And then Alexander Campbell, weren't able to get a 4th year out of this young center, but $2.4 million a year for the next 3 years. So, those were kind of all going to be restricted free agents, so we had a little more leverage with each of them. Still good to get them signed. Looking at the rest of the big players, Ottinger is not going to be a restricted free agent. He's unrestricted, so he's looking for more money. He's obviously having a great year, but he probably is our number 2 goalie going forward. Right now he's looking for close to $5 million a year. Not willing to give it to him yet. Hopefully, maybe if he becomes a clear backup in the coming months, maybe the amount he's looking for goes down a little bit. So not going to sign him right now. Quite honestly, though, with his age and his ability, we probably will sign him eventually, and he could potentially be somebody that we trade away next off season if we decide to move up one of the young goalies from Bridgeport. But enough value there that we probably end up signing him. Panarin is looking for close to $10 million a year right now, and also wants a no movement clause. Obviously, the fans will be upset if we let him go, but not gonna sign him for that kind of money at his age. At this point, there's always a chance with a player of that age that they just go down in terms of talent quickly, and or suffer an injury that's more difficult for them to come back from. So I certainly won't rule out bringing him back, but want to kind of see what he looks like, 3 or 4 months from now, as opposed to what he looks like now on December 8th. And then Mason Shaw, Lemico, both looking for several $1 million a year, kind of 3-star players. A chance we bring one or both of them back. And then with the Blue Liners, Dobson and Peak are both looking for 3.5, 4 million a year kind of contracts. Again, these are kind of 3-star kind of players, good, solid, stay-at-home defensemen. But we do, at this point, have a lot of money invested in our blue line when you look at the contracts that we already have on board with Parrik, and then Fox, who's on the injury list for us right now. So not ruling out bringing back any of those players, but right now, we've got the 4 young people who are really cornerstones of this franchise, hopefully for the next 3 to 4 years, and then hopefully beyond that signed, and we will work on some of the contracts with the older players who are looking for a bit more money in the coming months. Well, the calendar has flipped to 2026, and we are more than halfway through the season. You can see the Islanders with 43 games played. First place in the Metropolitan Division with 59 points. You look at the Islanders, Flyers, and Devils, and then there's a big break of 8 points down to the Rangers and 11 points down to the Hurricanes. So would certainly say that those 3 teams are the favorites to make the playoffs from the Metropolitan at this point. You can see we are second in the Eastern Conference in points and second in all of the NHL in points, behind only the mighty Bruins having a great season, 29-8-6 so far. Only real change we've made to the roster is, as you can see, Oettinger is still one of the top 8 in the league in terms of his goals against average, .919 save percentage, 15-4-3 record. So we have signed him to a 3-year extension at $4.4 million a year. Feel real good about getting our goalie situation stabilized with both Parrik and Oettinger having extensions. As I mentioned, it's possible that we will trade Oettinger in the offseason. If you look at who we have under contract, down in Bridgeport, Brochu is having a fantastic season, 23-year-old with a 1.78 goals against average and a .921 save percentage. Certainly looks like someone we could have up as our number 2 netminder last year. Tristan Lennox not developing quite as quickly, but still has put up a solid season in Bridgeport. And then Ivanov has been in both Worcester and Bridgeport this year, and done really a nice job at both spots. So we have enough young, high-quality, high-potential goalies that it's no guarantee that Parrik and Oettinger are both going to be on the team next year. But we want to have that option, and at the very least, a proven goalie like Oettinger in his late 20s, a manageable contract at $4.4 million a year. At the very least, that should have some value next off season if we do decide to move on from him. Well, we're looking at the players that we have on expiring contracts, and hadn't mentioned this before because he was on the injured list, but the great defenseman Adam Fox is also a big free agent for us this upcoming offseason. We don't want him to be a free agent. He's local from Long Island, superstar popularity, and then obviously a incredibly talented player who was a finalist for the Norris Trophy last year when he moved here from the Rangers. You may remember he came in that big trade where we had to give up the good young defensive prospect the forward prospect McPhee, who we had picked up in the trade for Dumoulin from the Canadians. Had to give him up, and also had to give up one of our first rounders and then a seventh rounder to get Fox from the Rangers a season ago, when I guess they decided they did not want to have to pay him like we are going to. So looking at what he's looking for over $8 million a year for 6 years and a no movement clause. I'm not going to go quite there at the start, but we will, and he's 27 years old. He's going to turn 28. We'll see if he's willing to do a little shorter for a little less money, and with we're fine with the no movement clause. He's going to be he's going to be on our roster. He's probably not going to go for this. It's a little less than he's looking for, but let's see. Yeah, he still wants 6 years, and he still wants a little more money. If we bump it up another 100,000 a year to 7.85 million for 5, getting close. If we do 7.9 million for 5 years, will you go for that, Adam? He really wants the 6th year, but he'll do it for a little less money. So let's knock it down even a little less than what he's looking for to 7.85 million a year for 6 years with the no movement clause. And yep, he'll go for that. So hopefully we will have him locked up. Obviously, it's going to get a little trickier to potentially bring back Panarin once we've got the money for Fox on the books. But Fox is, 6.5 years younger than Panarin, too. So certainly more likely the type of player that we're going to be investing in for the long term. Checking in on our young center, Matthew Savoy. He just had his second hat trick for us in the last couple of weeks. And you can see that through 37 games, he's got 13 goals and 17 assists. So he has scored almost as many points through 37 games as he did all of last season, and obviously a lot more productive than he was in his rookie year when he wasn't on the ice. We have him renewed, as we've talked about, through 2030 season. So feeling really good about Savoy and that he will be a continued big part of the future of the Islanders as we try to remain a team that's competing for the Stanley Cup every season for the next several seasons. Will just suffered another relatively serious injury. Versatile defenseman, good stay-at-home defenseman, Andrew Peeke, out indefinitely with a partially torn UCL. You may remember that he is also a player who is in the final year of his contract, so certainly not good timing for that to happen to Peeke. Likely going to be out for the rest of the season. I guess the silver lining is that it allows us to bring up the really good young prospect, Jiricek, who we had just sent back down to Bridgeport recently, bring him up to the big club. And the other news as far as our prospects is that the former number 1 pick, Mateo Rotundi, we started him at Worcester. He played really well there, and he's moved up to Bridgeport more recently, where he's also been playing extremely well with a +7 in 8 games. So Rotundi is definitely going to be up with the big club next season. The question is whether, if we have another injury, whether we just move him up next, as opposed to bringing up someone like Johansson if we need some help at the NHL level. Knowing that Rotundi is coming gives us a little more flexibility in terms of what we potentially want to do with both Dobson, who's in the last year of his contract, as well as Peeke. And then we have also recently put Kyle Capobianco on the trade block. Not quite as good as some of our other defensemen. We've got him for the next couple years at $2 million plus season, or actually the next year and a half at this point, this season and the remainder of this season plus next season. But with wanting to keep Jiricek on the roster, potentially wanting to bring up Rotundi relatively soon, and then hopefully we will get Peeke back at some point, although probably not this season. But think that with both Dobson and Peeke as free agents, probably more likely that we would bring back Dobson now with the injury that Peeke just suffered. But Capobianco feeling a little redundant to us right now with the youth that we have on the way up. So if someone presents us with an interesting offer for Kyle, we will consider moving on from him a year before his contract was set to mature. Well, we just got some more bad news for the blue line. Adam Pelech suffered a fractured shoulder blade, going to be out for 1 to 2 months. So the veteran defenseman is headed to the injured list, unfortunately. But that's going to give us opportunity to bring up the youngster. We have decided that we're going to make the move to bring up Mateo Rotundi. First season in the organization with us. You can see he did a nice job at Worcester with an 82 game rating. He's had a 77 game rating in 8 games at Bridgeport. He's feeling like he's at the wrong level. He probably is at the wrong level. So the 20-year-old who was our number 1 round draft pick about 2.5 years ago in July of 2023, 15th overall, is going to be making his National Hockey League debut in the coming days for us. So Rotundi to the big club to replace the injured Pelech, and we are going to start seeing how these younger defenders do at the NHL level. We are into the month of February, and the Islanders are on fire. A 9-1-1 record over the last month. When you look at the NHL standings, 78 points through 54 games. Most points in the league, best record in the league at 36-12-6. Everything is going well. The only issue that we have kind of realized, and we kind of knew this, but Panarin, who's having a really great year for us, 29 goals and 35 assists through 54 games, is definitely going to be a 1-year rental for us. We gave up a lot to get him, but kind of looking at the extension we've given to Fox and Ottinger, we're kind of already at the salary cap for next season with the players that we have on our roster. So, our goal is to repeat as Stanley Cup champions, and he is clearly someone who can help us do that and hopefully will help us do that. But going to be real unlikely that we're going to be able to sign him to an extension, unfortunately. But things can change. There's lots of time for us to make that decision before we get to June, and a lot's going to happen between now and then. Not too much is going to happen over the next month, however, as we've got a long break coming up for the 2026 Olympics. So only going to have 6 games in the month of February. So unlikely that the standings are going to change that month. We also will have the trade deadline coming up. You can see if we look at our roster, we do actually have a fair amount of salary cap space. But that's really driven by some big contracts in the case of Pelech and Wahlstrom, and a decently sized contract in the case of Peak being on the injury list right now. Hopefully we'll have Pelech back certainly for the playoffs. The hope is that Wahlstrom will also be able to contribute in the playoffs. But it's increasingly likely that Peak has played his last game for the Islanders, and we won't be looking to sign him to an extension. The young defenseman, Jaracek, just having a brilliant first season with the Islanders. You can see he's plus 17 in 33 games played, doing a great job for us at right defense. And then the youngster, Mateo Rotundi, is also off to a good start. 7 games at the NHL level with the Islanders, 1 goal and 4 assists in +2. So both of those young players are big parts of our future, and it probably means that players like Capobianco, potentially Dobson, and then obviously also potentially Peak are smaller parts of the Islanders' future, with those young blue liners just doing an excellent job being under our control at reasonable contracts for the next few seasons. Well, we're nearing the month of February, but just wanted to report that the Olympics are over and the United States defeated Canada to win the gold medal in the 2026 Olympics. Both Adam Fox and Matthew Barzal were involved in that game from the Islanders. So exciting news for USA Hockey in that matchup. We have kind of perused the trade block to see if there was something interesting to do there. Quite honestly, there really wasn't anything that we could afford to do. Looking at the trade block, it hasn't changed too much. Eichel is the most interesting player. Clearly, 29 years old, making $10 million a year, but we could not fit him in. You can see a few older defensemen, goalies, and forwards, none of whom that were going to be a difference maker that we thought for our team. And then in some cases, the salaries were also going to be difficult for us to take on. We did kind of look at the youngster Ty Nelson, who is with the Blue Jackets. Kind of interesting to see a player as talented as him, 21 years old, on the trade block. 2.5 stars right now, but 5-star potential for their 2022 second round choice. But they were not surprisingly looking for multiple first rounders and multiple good players for him, given that we are a team that is built to win right now and we don't have a ton of draft pick capital, even though he'd be a great player to be building around in the coming years. Have enough confidence in Rotundi and Jaracek on our side as young defensemen that didn't feel the need to pull the trigger on that trade. So I'm going to stand pat at the trade deadline, but we can kind of afford to. 83 points, the best in hockey by 6 points over the Bruins. Panarin still third in the league in scoring. And you can see that Ottinger is in the top 8 in goals against, save percentage, as well as wins. He has taken over again as our pretty much everyday starter. You can see a fantastic 26-6-1 record, probably going to be in the running for some off-season awards. So very glad to have him extended for another few seasons. Again, we may actually trade him away if we can get something crazy for him, but he's having a really strong season for us. So happy to have picked him up through waivers a few years ago, even though it did mean that we ended up having to waive and ultimately lost the young prospect Jacob Skarek, who was on our team at the time. Well, we're into the month of March, and we will take a quick look at some of our player development. Xavier Barzal, who we mentioned before, probably will be up with the big club next season. Did spend some time with us last year. He continues to improve down in Bridgeport, having a fantastic year there with a plus 31 in 63 games. Tristan Lennox also having a real nice season down there. He could certainly end up with the big club if we do decide to do something with one of our goalies in the off season. Stromgren, uncertain, whether he's a long-term prospect for us, but he continues to improve. Evan Malay, who was a pick of ours a few years ago, kind of having a choppy season. Don't put too much stock in, your goals against in the OHL, but by the same token, 4.57 goals against average definitely stands out, and his 9-18-3 record is certainly not great. At the upper level, Tanner Howe having a nice second season for us. You'll remember he went right from being drafted to the NHL roster last season. Playing okay this year. Would have expected him to be a little better, but still a young player with great potential. Ottinger continues to get even better. As we've talked about, he's kind of taken over as our number one guy. And then Rotundi, still playing well, 8 points in 13 games, plus 4. Good to have him up at the NHL level playing with us. So things continue to move in a good direction. We are at the start of March. You can see 85 points by 7 points now over the Kings. We have the best record in hockey. Hopefully, we can maintain that over the last quarter of the season. This almost perfect regular season for the Islanders continued in the month of March. 11-3 record. We are in the home stretch of the season now. You can see we've got 109 points through 75 games. Have not quite clinched the President's Trophy, but should do so in the next couple of days. The closest team to us is the Senators, who are 12 games behind. So just a brilliant season so far by these Islanders, who are built to win now. Still are making some progress developing some of our younger players, though. You can see that over the last month, Xavier Barzal came up to the big club a little while ago due to some injuries we suffered. Tanner Howe continues to get better. Jarachik better both in his offensive read and his stick checking. Parrik at goal. And then Matthew Savoy, who's had a really nice kind of breakout season for us, even though he has been injured more recently for the last week or two. Part of the reason that we were able to bring up Barzal is also having a really good year. So everything is working out well. We do have a few people on the injured list right now, but hopefully nothing that is going to get in the way of a long run in the playoffs. As I mentioned, Savoy has been out for a bit, but should be back very soon. We did lose the veteran forward Lemico indefinitely to a fractured larynx. So both Peak and Lemico unlikely to see again this year. But hopefully we will get Wahlstrom back from his fractured knee in the early stages of the playoffs, which would be a nice boost for our roster. And we have reached the end of the regular season. You can see the Islanders are President's Trophy winners with 118 points, 55, 19, and 8. So just a dream regular season for your defending Stanley Cup champions. Hopefully we can continue that momentum in the playoffs. Everything looks good. We've talked about the injuries. Hopefully we'll have Wahlstrom back soon, but nothing else too major going on. Tanner Howe has a minor facial cut, a little banged up, but we are close to full strength as we prepare for the Stanley Cup run in the playoffs. Kind of looking at bigger picture stuff for the team. Chemistry, excellent, people getting along well, no bad relationships, and really no problems in the clubhouse at all. No one disruptive, no one outspoken, no one selfish, no one unmotivated. So Barzal has done a great job as captain. And you can see fan happiness still absolutely off the charts, even though our record was a little choppy in the month of April. We lost 3 games in a row at one point, which is pretty hard to do when you only lose 19 games over the course of the regular season, although I guess there are those 8 overtime losses. But fantastic regular season for the Islanders. This episode's a little long already. We've dug into a little more detail on things like our thoughts around contract extensions, what we're doing in terms of scouting and player development in this episode in response to some viewer questions we've gotten. So hope you enjoyed a little more detail on those subjects. If you have any other thoughts, please leave them in the comments below. If you're enjoying the series, I would appreciate it if you like our videos and subscribe to the channel. We will be back in our next episode with a look at the Islanders playoff run for the 25-26 season. you'll know that if that's only a 7 or 8 minute episode, that we didn't make it very far. But we will examine the playoff run and then do a review of all of the stats from the 2025-26 season for the Islanders, and our thinking as we begin heading towards the off season in our next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.